According to Lending Club, roughly half of Americans earning over $100,000 per year are living paycheck to paycheck. You heard that right. Even those earning six figures are struggling to make ends meet, but the reasons for this aren't what you think. Does this mean that the future is bleak for workers earning less? Not necessarily. Take a look at why even those considered well-off can't seem to make foreign progress and what can be done about it. Welcome to Cashflow Canvas, where we teach lessons about investment and money-saving techniques. If you want to make your financial future better, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for the latest updates. According to a LendingTree survey, 64% of all U.S. customers were living paycheck to paycheck at least sporadically in late 2022. This is an improvement above previous years in early 2022. 65% of Americans reported living paycheck to paycheck, a decrease from 70% in 2020. The proportion of people living paycheck to paycheck falls as income increases, but not as much as you might imagine. According to a Zibia study, 56% of Americans believed that earning $100,000 per year would make them wealthy if they kept their current lifestyle. The same level of spending that corresponds to their current income while earning $100,000 per year would be enough to make them wealthy if they were responsible for those increased earnings. In other words, if they continued their current spending levels with whatever income they're earning, they'd presumably have a lot of extra room in their budget. They fail to recognize that increased earnings almost always result in more spending. Rather than increasing their savings rate as their income rises, they immediately go out and spend that extra income in the form of higher rent, larger mortgages, and new cars. The reality is that $100,000 just doesn't buy what it used to decades ago. A $100,000 income was seen as quite respectable. That would be enough to have a nice home in the suburbs, a late model car, and it would be enough. $100,000 is enough to take the family on a nice vacation a few times a year, but it doesn't buy nearly as much as it used to. In fact, with annual long-term inflation rates of around 4%, the dollar loses half of its purchasing power every 18 years. With the average new car price of around $50,000 according to Kelley Blue Book, and the average home price of over $400,000, you can see just how expensive things have become just buying a starter home on a $50,000 income in 2005. A $100,000 income today can be difficult due to inflation eroding the purchasing power of the dollar. The amount someone would need to pay in income taxes varies depending on many factors, such as their filing status, any deductions they may have, and their state income. For this example, assume that 20% of their annual income goes directly to taxes, leaving them with $80,000 per year to take home or $6,600 per month. This is still not a bad income, but the amount after tax is significantly different from gross income the more money someone makes. The more money they spend, and they get used to spending that amount of money regardless of income category, they're in. Higher income earners in particular are subject to lifestyle creep because they earn larger than average paychecks and have the ability to increase their expenses, whereas someone earning only enough to pay the bills doesn't really have any. There is room in the budget for them to improve their lifestyle. For example, they have the option of renting a more expensive apartment if they want to until their expenses exceed their income. They believe they are successful in earning a high income, so they deserve to spend that money. They deserve the apartment. They deserve to eat at fancy restaurants and buy whatever they want because they have no roommates. It's almost as if these people are living in the past because they still consider $100,000 to be a luxurious income, even though it's only half of what it was just 18 years ago. Earning $100,000 isn't a comfortable amount, but it can certainly provide a comfortable lifestyle. The concept of living above your means is the main cause of being in a constant state of mediocrity, barely making ends meet instead of living below their means and spending less than they earn. Spending rises to meet or exceed their income when they receive a raise. They immediately spend the entire raise instead of saving it for a rainy day, which many people aren't doing. If you're not going to live below your means, you might as well forget about ever getting ahead financially. Studies show that another major reason people are living paycheck to paycheck is that they fail to plan for the unexpected. The irresponsible increase their lifestyle rather than making it less expensive. Establishing and maintaining an emergency fund as a priority as a result, an unexpected expense becomes a much larger concern than it should be. According to Susie Orman, one of the finest things you can do is set up an emergency fund of 8 to 12 months of costs, but other finance gurus recommend saving at least 3 to 6 months of spending. Expenses being prepared for the unexpected is critical since things may and do go wrong, and not having enough emergency reserves to cover these occurrences will simply result in a continuation of being broke. According to LendingTree, 58 of those who are struggling to make ends meet have turned to credit. Cards to fill the void. Putting the bills on credit may be a temporary answer, but they can get kicked down the road until the bill comes due in a month or two, and you're faced with the alternative of making the minimal payment and accruing excessive interest, or attempting to come up with a debt in full. Which are desirable alternatives? It turns out that having a significant other is advantageous in terms of finances. According to LendingTree, 56% of married couples are comfortable paying their monthly payments, compared to 40% of those who have never married and 36% of those who are divorced. When it comes to budgeting, housing costs in particular are extremely helpful. Having a partner can be beneficial, but only if it's the right partner who shares similar values. When it comes to money, being married to someone with a spending problem will not end well. How is the average person supposed to fight inflation so their income doesn't lose value? Every year, purchasing power increases. Ideally, you want to ensure that your income grows in lockstep with inflation. For some, this means job hopping to some extent or leaving your current workplace and going where you'll be paid more. Studies show that this is preferable to staying at the same job where your employer only provides minuscule raises that probably don't even keep you employed. Others must keep up with inflation. This entails owning a business with the pricing ability to endure inflation, as well as investing in assets such as stocks, real estate, and other commodities that assist in battling inflation. When you're barely making ends meet, it's easy to continue making progress once you've broken the loop. Paying. If you're like most individuals who don't feel like they're spending lavishly, paying off debt and lowering expenses can be frightening. However, if you start making tiny steps, it becomes much simpler to make progress. Saving for an emergency fund is simple when you have a fully funded savings account. Put money aside for retirement, the ball starts rolling, and progress really begins to pick up speed. This should offer individuals who are feeling stuck due to their current circumstances hope. Do you believe individuals live paycheck to paycheck because they don't know how to live within their means? Or do you believe inflation makes it hard to do so?